There is a child somewhere in your past who was told to stop crying. Maybe they were told directly, "Stop it. You are fine. There is nothing to cry about." Maybe it was subtler than that. A look, a silence, a room that went cold every time the feelings became visible. Maybe nobody said anything at all, but the child learned very quickly that the feelings made other people uncomfortable, and so the child learned to make them disappear. That child became very good at disappearing their feelings, so good that by the time they became an adult, they could not find them anymore, even when they needed to. And that adult is probably watching this video right now. Here is what most people never understand about emotional suppression. It does not make the emotion go away, it makes it go underground. The feeling does not dissolve because a parent told a child to stop feeling it. It goes somewhere inside the body where it cannot be seen, and it stays there, and it waits, and it grows. And then 20 years later, an adult cannot explain why they feel a constant low-level anxiety that has no source. Cannot explain why they shut down completely when someone they love expresses pain. Cannot explain why anger comes out of nowhere in situations that should not produce this much feeling. Cannot explain why they feel nothing at the moments when they are supposed to feel everything. The explanation is not a mystery. It is in the bedroom of a 7-year-old who learned that the safest thing to do with a feeling was to make it invisible. Psychologists who study childhood emotional development have identified something they call emotional dismissal, the consistent pattern of adults responding to a child's emotions by minimizing, denying, or redirecting them. Research shows that children who experience emotional dismissal do not grow up to have fewer emotions. They grow up to have the same intensity of emotion, but no tools to process it, no language to name it, and no belief that expressing it is safe. This is not about bad parents. Most parents who told their children to stop crying were themselves told to stop crying. Most adults who responded to a child's sadness with discomfort were adults whose own sadness was never held properly. The pattern passes through generations, not because anyone chose to damage anyone, but because nobody ever showed them another way. But the impact on the child is real, regardless of the intention. Think about what a child learns when their feelings are consistently dismissed. They learn that their internal experience is wrong, that what they feel does not match what the world tells them they should feel, that the gap between what is happening inside them and what is acceptable to show outside is their problem to manage, not anyone else's responsibility to respond to. They learn to be a perfect performer of okayness. They learn to read the room and calibrate themselves to what other people can handle. They learn that their needs are secondary, their pain is inconvenient, and their job is to be whatever version of themselves creates the least disruption for the people around them. And they are very good at this job, extraordinarily good. So good that nobody around them ever realizes how much it is costing them. The cost shows up in specific ways that most adults never connect back to their childhood. The first is what psychologists call emotional numbness, the inability to access feelings in real time. The child who is told to stop crying eventually becomes the adult who cannot cry even when they desperately need to. The feelings are there, but the access point has been closed for so long it no longer opens on command. They go through experiences that should devastate them and function normally. And inside there is a quiet panic. What is wrong with me? Why can I not feel this? Why does everyone else seem to have access to something I cannot reach? The second cost is emotional flooding. This sounds like the opposite of numbness, and it is, but they come from the same source. The child who suppressed feelings did not eliminate them. They stored them, and storage has a limit. At some point, the storage becomes full, and the smallest trigger, a harsh tone, a perceived rejection, a moment of unexpected vulnerability, opens all of it at once. The adult experiences an emotional response that seems wildly disproportionate to the situation. They cannot explain why they are this upset about something this small. The people around them cannot understand it either. What is actually happening is not an overreaction to the present moment. It is a completely proportionate reaction to 30 years of moments that were never allowed to be felt. The third cost is the one that damages relationships most. The child who learned that emotions make people uncomfortable grows into an adult who is genuinely terrified of other people's emotions. Not because they do not care, because they care too much and have no idea what to do with the feeling that caring produces. When someone they love is in pain, they freeze. They change the subject. They offer practical solutions to emotional problems. They do the very thing that was done to them. They minimize, they redirect. They make the feeling smaller not because they are cruel, but because nobody ever showed them that sitting inside someone else's pain without trying to fix it was even possible. They become the person who cannot be emotionally present for the people they love most, and they hate themselves for it, and they cannot change it because they do not understand where it came from. But here is the most important thing this video needs to say. The child who learned to suppress their feelings was not broken by that experience. They were adaptive. They did the most intelligent thing a child can do with an environment that cannot hold their emotions. They held the emotions themselves. They developed an internal containment system that was sophisticated enough to keep them functional in a world that required their feelings to be invisible. That is not damage. That is survival intelligence. The damage is not in the child who adapted. The damage is in the adult who is still running the childhood survival strategy in a world that no longer requires it. The damage is in the adult who is still performing okayness for people who are actually capable of handling the real version. The damage is in the person who is still protecting everyone else from feelings that nobody is actually asking them to hide anymore. The question is not whether the suppression happened. It did. The question is whether you are going to keep doing it now that you are no longer 7 years old and powerless. Because you are not 7 anymore. You are an adult in a body that has been carrying feelings for decades that were never given permission to exist. And those feelings do not need to be performed for an audience. They do not need to be analyzed until they make logical sense. They do not need to be justified or explained or made reasonable. They just need to be felt. For the first time, by the person they always belonged to. If this video named something you recognized about yourself or about the child you once were, this channel exists for exactly this reason. Every week, always this deep, always this honest. Welcome to Decoded Psyche. Join now.